The first warning came as a shadow across the snow. The human stood on the cliff above the dragon valley, his fur-lined cloaks snapping in the wind.
Ow.
Baby dragons chased each other in the powder, tumbling and chirping. Above them, adult dragons glided lazy circles, wings stretched wide. At peace for the first time in many seasons, the humans smiled. Their breath turned to mist in the cold air. One small hatchling sat on their shoulder like a scaly blue bird, claws hooked into the thick fabric. Another pressed against their leg, rubbing its head against their knee. This was home now. Then the light dimmed. For a moment the human thought a cloud had crossed the sun, but when they looked up they did not see cloud. They saw metal, high in the pale sky. A dark shape slid over the valley. Then another. Then many ships. They were too high to hear clearly yet, but the human felt a faint vibration in the stone under. Their boots like a giant heartbeat. The nearest dragons slowed in the air, heads turning, pupils narrowing. The hatchling on the human's shoulder hissed and pressed closer to their neck. No, no, no. The human whispered. They knew those shapes. Not the exact ships, but the design. Human warships, military hulls, gun lines, engines that could burn a city flat. Get down, the human shouted, waving both arms at the dragons above. Down now. The dragons might not know the words, but they understood the fear in the voice. The nearest adult folded her wings and dropped fast, smashing into the snow with a spray of powder. Others followed, diving toward the valley floor. Young ones scrambled for the cave mouths in the cliffs. Only one dragon flew upward. The pack leader, he, rose on a column of air, wings beating hard. Frost blew off his scales in a glittering cloud. He climbed until he was almost level with the lowest ship. His roar split the morning. The sound shook the snow from ledges, rattled frozen icicles from the cave mouths, and carried up to the steel. Bellies above, down in the valley, dragons froze. The human's heart hammered. This was wrong. Too many ships for a simple talk. It's too heavy, too armed. Someone up there was afraid or planning to make others afraid. The baby dragon at their leg squeaked, confused. The humans scooped it into their arms and turned, sliding down the icy path toward the main cave. Inside, dragons were already gathering. Shadows moved around the glowing blue crystals. Hatchlings crowded together, eyes wide and bright. Reth stood. Near the entrance, his injured leg wrapped in fresh cloth, a faint scar where the trap had bitten him. His gaze flicked from the sky to the human. You called them, he said, voice low. You're kind. They come in iron clouds. The words hit like a slap. I sent them proof, the human answered, breathing hard. The recording from the base. The cages. The dead. Someone had to see what the hunters were doing. And now, many come. Reth growled. With more metal than I have ever smelled in one sky, the leader swooped down, landing with a boom that shook loose frost from the ceiling. He folded his wings slowly, eyes still locked on the ships overhead. They are here, he said. Your sky pack. Dozens of dragons watched the human, for the first time since they were named Snowwalker Hatchling. The human felt their place. In the cave, crack like thin ice. I didn't ask for an army, they said softly. I asked for help. Sometimes those are the same, Reth replied. Outside, engines growled louder as the ships dropped lower through the thin clouds. The first rays of sun hit their hulls, turning them into bright knives in the air. The leader turned his head, one eye on the human, the other on the ships. Old law would be simple, he rumbled. We see metal, we burn metal. He lowered his huge head until his breath warmed the human's face. But we have a new law now. Any who protect our young, our pack. His voice hardened. Tell us, Snowwalker, Hatchling, are these your hunters or your pack? The question hung in the cold air like a blade. The human looked up at the growing swarm of ships, then back at the dragons huddled around their sleeping children, their stomach twisted. I don't know yet, they whispered. That's what scares me. Above the valley, the lead ship's engines flared brighter as it broke formation and began to descend straight toward the dragon caves. Asterisk. The lead ship came down like a falling star. Dragons watched from the shadows of the valley, wings half spread, bodies low to the snow. Hatchlings hid deep inside the caves. The humans stood at the mouth of the main cave, cloak snapping in the wind. A small blue hatchling clung to their shoulder, claws dug into the fur. The pack leader loomed beside them, a wall of horn and scale. Engines roared. The ship slowed over the far edge of the snowfield and lowered a dark ramp. Snow blasted outward in white waves. Figures walked down the ramp. Humans, they wore heavy dark armor with glowing strips, helmets hiding their faces. Some carried rifles. Others held tablets and scanners. A bright flag patch marked their shoulders. The human at the cave felt their chest twist. These were their people, their own sky pack, and also the ones dragons feared most. The leader's lips pulled back from his teeth. Smoke curled between his fangs. "Tell them to stop," he rumbled. The human swallowed and stepped forward, raising both hands. "Hold." They shouted in their own language, weapons down, slow and calm. "They're watching you." Their voice bounced off stone and ice. Some soldiers flinched at the lone figure before a cave full of dragons. The person at the front raised one hand. Rifles dipped, but the weapons did not power off. Light still glowed along the barrels. The front figure removed their helmet. A woman's face appeared, sharp and tired, streaks of gray at her temples. "Snowfield contact," she called. "You're the one who sent the recordings?" "Yes," the human said. "That was me." "I'm Captain Mara Hayes," she replied. "We saw what they did in that base. That wasn't research. It was a crime scene. We're here to make sure it doesn't happen again." Behind her, soldiers shifted, eyes flicking up to the ridges where dragons crouched. Beside the human, the leader's voice rolled low. "What does she say?" "She says she saw the cages," the human answered. "She says she came to stop." The hunter's wrath's growl floated down from the rocks above. Hunters flew human ships before. Paint changes. Teeth do not. The human looked back at the landing team. On Captain Hayes' chest, a clean military star gleamed. On the armor of a soldier behind her, half hidden under a cloak, the human saw another badge, small circle with jagged lines. They had seen that sigil on crates in the underground base, the Hunter Corporation. Hayes followed their gaze and frowned. "Sergeant!" she snapped. "Lose that emblem now." The soldier stiffened, then began to pry the symbol from his armor. His eyes met the human's for a beat. There was no shame. It's only cold anger at being caught. Low growls rolled through the valley. The leader slid his heavy tail closer to the human, ready to yank them backward if metal flashed. "You asked for help?" Hayes said, pulling her eyes away. "From the dragons? We brought it. But I can't protect anyone if those things," she nodded at the cliffs, "torch my people on sight." "They won't," the human said quickly. "If your people don't point guns at their children." Hayes held their gaze. "We are not here to hurt hatchlings." "Then prove it," the human replied. "Keep your ships high and your weapons on safe. No cages, no chains, no samples. Just talk." Wind hissed between them, snow spun around boots and claws. For a long moment, Captain Hayes said nothing. Then she turned her head. "Weapons too safe," she ordered. "No live captures without my direct command. Rifles powered down with a soft whine." Light along the barrels dimmed. Dragons eased a little, but their eyes stayed hard. The leader lowered his head until his snout was almost level with the human's chest. "You stand between us and your own kind," he said. "If they lie, you feel our fire first." "I know," the human whispered. Hayes watched the way the dragon spoke to them, how the hatchling on their shoulder pressed close. "You live with them now," she said quietly. "Yes," the human answered. "They are my pack." High above, beyond the low clouds, a larger shadow moved. The human looked up. Behind the main ship, far higher than the rest, floated a huge carrier, its hull lined with cold lights. As the cloud shifted, its underside turned toward the valley. There, glowing faintly, was the same jagged circle symbol used by the hunters. The human's mouth went dry. Beneath the carrier, a wide bay door began to open, and rows of smaller dark shapes slid forward, ready to drop toward the world below. The hunters had not been destroyed. They were arriving. Asterisk. The carrier hung above the clouds, dark shape turning in the pale sky. On the valley floor, dragons watched in tense silence. The humans stood between the caves and the landing team, one icy blue hatchling on their shoulder. Behind them, the pack leader loomed. In front, Captain Hayes and her soldiers waited with rifles lowered. The human pointed upward. "You see that circle mark?" they called. "I saw it on the cages in the base." "Same people?" A break in the clouds showed the jagged emblem on the carrier's belly. Hayes' jaw tightened. "That carrier was not in my brief," she said. "We were told light support only, nothing about hunter command." "So your own side hid the truth," the human replied. "Now you know why the dragons don't trust humans." A growl rolled from the cave. "What does she say?" the leader asked. "She didn't know the big ship was coming," the human answered. "Her sky pack kept it secret." "If she cannot trust her own pack," he said, "why should we?" Hayes took one careful step closer. "That means the dragons, you, maybe us." Hayes. The human turned so both sides could see. "You all say you want the hunters stopped. Humans keep hunter ships and labs away. No cages, no chains, no samples. Say that on an open channel so every ship hears." They faced the leader. "And you promise not to strike first at... You fight only the carrier and anyone who fights with it." Reth's voice floated from the rocks. "If you choose one ally, maybe you live." Hayes studied the human. "You're betting your life. We keep that promise." "I already did," they said. "I sent the recordings and told. If I was wrong, I'm standing in the best place to die for it." She turned to her comms officer. "Open channel to all ships." "Channel open," he said. Hayes raised her voice. "This is Captain Mara Hayes, ground. Team Alpha. We have... The carrier above shows hunter insignia from an illegal facility. I declare this valley a protected zone. Any strike on it will be recorded and treated as an illegal order." Static hissed. Then a cold male voice answered. "Hayes, this is Admiral Corrin. Fleet will handle containment?" The human flinched at the name. Corrin had signed the hunter orders in the ruined base. The leader watched them. "What does your sky chief say?" he asked. "He wants the valley clear," the human said. "He wants that ship to handle you." Ref's lip curled. "Handle," he repeated, "that like a chain handles a neck." Hayes stared at the snow, then clicked her rifle fully off. Its lights went dark. "The command still covers my ship and my squad," she said. "Admiral, if that carrier fires on civilians, I will send your orders and the recordings to every open channel in range." Captain Corrin said at last, "You are making a serious mistake, but I won't help you hide this." The human turned to the leader. "She is choosing your side," they said. "She's risking her own people to stop the hunters." The leader studied Hayes, then dipped his massive head. "For this hunt," he said, "our fire runs with hers." High above, the carrier's bay doors opened wide. The first wave of hunter craft dropped from its belly, black shapes falling toward the white valley like a storm of knives. Now they had to survive it. The hunter craft fell from the carrier, like black hail. Engines screamed as they dropped through. The clouds then flared to slow their fall. They spread out above the valley in sharp lines, forming a ring around the dragon caves. On the ground, dragons shifted their weight, wings half open, ready to launch. Snow blew around their claws. Hatchlings watched from deep inside the caves. Pressed against warm stone and each other, the humans stood between rock and snow, between pack and soldiers. Captain Hayes' voice cut through the wind. "All squads hold position," she ordered. "Do not fire unless fired upon. We are not here to start a war with dragons." Her words carried across the valley, but the hunter ships above did not slow. They began to circle, scanning, mapping. Beside the human, Reth's tail lashed. "Like carrion flies," he growled, waiting for the meat to stop moving. At the humans' jaw tightened. They looked up at the ring of craft, then down at the snow, near their boots. Something blinked under a thin layer of ice, a tiny red light. The human frowned and crouched. With a gloved hand, they brushed away the powder and uncovered a small, jagged device half buried in the crust. A metal spike punched into the ground. A dish no bigger than a claw tip pointed at the sky, a beacon. Their stomach went cold. Behind them, a baby dragon padded forward, curious. It sniffed another patch of snow by the cave wall and scratched it aside. A second tiny beacon gleamed there, red light pulsing. Reth, the human said, voice low. They already marked this valley. Reth moved closer and sniffed the device, eyes narrowing. This is not dragon work, he said. This is hunter stink. How many? The leader asked as if answering. More hatchlings started to whine and scratch at the snow, tugged by the faint metallic smell. Every few steps another small light appeared. The human's chest tightened. They tagged your home, they said. Before the carrier even came. Hayes walked over, soldiers nervous at her back. She looked down at the beacon in the human's hand. Her face went still. That's not fleet standard, she said quietly. The human held it up. Then someone brought it planet-side on purpose. Reth's eyes flashed. From her pack, he said. Not all of them, the human shot back, but at least one. If on cue, one of Hayes' soldiers broke formation and started for the nearest beacon, hand at his belt. Not to examine it, switch it off before anyone could see. Stop, the human yelled. The soldier froze, then slowly straightened. Hayes' eyes narrowed. Corporal Vance, she said. Why do you know exactly where that is? His jaw flexed. Perimeter safety check, ma'am, he said. I saw something blink. You were on my ramp the whole time, Hayes cut in. You didn't have a chance to see it blink. He didn't answer. The leader stepped forward. His shadow swallowed the man. The heat from his breath melted frost on Vance's armor. Tell her, the dragon rumbled, who you really fly for. Vance's hand twitched toward his sidearm. Reth moved faster. He slammed his tail down in front of the soldier, throwing up a wall of snow and ice. Soldiers jerked their rifles up on reflex, fear flashing in their eyes. Easy, A shouted. Weapons down. That's an order. Slowly, reluctantly, the barrels lowered. Vance stared up at the dragons, then at the human holding the beacon. You don't understand, he snarled. Those things are resources, power. Do you know what? A single adult can fuel whole city shields, jump drives. You can't just leave that sitting in the snow. They are not fuel, the human said. Their voice shook. They are families. Vance laughed once, bitter. You think Fleet cares about that? You think the admiral brought a carrier here for your feelings? The human took a step closer. So you planted these? They asked. So the carrier would know where to aim? Vance's silence was the only answer they needed. Above, huntercraft tightened their circle. The human turned to Hayes. If we don't pull those up, they can drop a strike on this valley without even seeing it, they said. Fires, cages, whatever they want. Hayes' face was pale under the frost. For a moment, anger and shame twisted there together. Then her voice hardened. All units, she called. New priority, find and destroy every beacon in this valley. Now, if it blinks red, you rip it out of the ground. Her soldiers hesitated, looking from Vance to the dragons. That's a direct order, she snapped. Move. Humans and dragons scattered at once. Hatchlings sniffed and scratched, showing soldiers where tiny lights hid. Soldiers dug them up with gloved hands and tossed them into waiting dragon jaws where they were crushed like shells. Reth leaped from rock to rock, smashing beacons with his claws. Vance watched, eyes burning. You're throwing away our future, he muttered. The leader swung his head toward him. We are burning your chains, he said. The human walked up to Vance, still clutching the first beacon. You had a choice, they said softly. You chose the hunters. You chose monsters, Vance spat. The hatchling on the humans. Shoulder hissed, tiny sparks popping between its teeth. No, the human answered. I chose my pack. Above them, the carrier shifted. Without the beacons, its targeting systems would be blind to the exact cave mouths. But it still had eyes. It still had guns. The ring of hunter craft broke formation. They reformed into spear points aimed straight at the valley. Hayes looked up, grim. "They're done marking," she said. "They're ready to strike." The last beacon shattered between the leader's teeth. He spat metal and wires into the snow, and lifted his head. "Then we meet them in the sky," he said. Dragons spread. Their wings, engines screamed overhead. The first hunter craft tipped, its nose down, and began to dive. The first hunter craft dropped like a spear. It came nose first out of the clouds, engines screaming. At the last moment it flared, guns glowing under its belly. Dragons answered. They burst from the caves and cliffs, wings snapping open. The pack leader flew at the front, his roar shaking ice from the rocks. "Stay with the snow walker," he had told the hatchlings. "Stay in the caves." On the ground, the humans stood by the main cave. A small blue hatchling clung to their shoulder. "Captain." Hayes and her soldiers held a line in front of the cave above. The first exchange hit. A hunter craft fired a blue beam at the leader. He twisted. The shot missed his wing and smashed into a cliff, blowing ice outward. He answered with fire. White-blue flame washed over the craft's side. Metal glowed, then tore away. The ship spun and vanished behind a ridge in steam and snow. More hunter craft peeled off from the ring and dove. Reth sprinted toward the human. "On," he barked. "Now." The human jumped onto his back, grabbing the ridges on his neck. The hatchling dropped into the hollow between his shoulders and dug in. Hayes took one step forward. "If you fall, I can't save you," she shouted. "Then keep them safe." The human called, nodding toward the caves. Reth leaped. Cold air slammed into them as he climbed. The valley shrank below. Hunter craft and dragons twisted and dodged. Bright shots cutting lines through the sky. Some ships dove low, shooting glowing nets meant to close around wings. One net shot straight at R. He rolled hard. The net skimmed his tail and snapped. Shut on empty air, shattering when it hit the ice. "Too slow," he growled. Far above, the carrier watched. On its bridge, Admiral Corrin stared at a glowing map. Icons marked every hunter craft. "Pull them outward," he said. "Away from the cliffs. Once they are over open ground, we fire." Back near the caves, Hayes checked her wrist screen. Lines and dots slid away from the valley center. "They're pushing you out," the human shouted into Reth's ear. "They want you far from the stone." Reth banked and called the warning in his own tongue. The leader tried to turn the pack back toward the cliffs. But each time a dragon chased a craft, it twisted away, dragging the fight toward the flat land. Beyond the valley wall, the human looked down at the bowl of rock, and the caves dug into it. "If you fire something big," they called, "those cliffs might be the only thing that can break the blast." Reth's eyes flicked toward the distant glint of metal on the horizon. The human outpost, with its walls and tall antenna. "Your metal den," he shouted back. "Where your sky pack sleeps. If we drag the hunters there," the human said, "your pack and mine can strike together. And if the admiral attacks his own base and the dragons at once, everyone watching will see what he really is." Verret his teeth. "You want to pull him into the open sky," he said, "and make him show his throat?" "Yes," the human said as they swept past the leader. Reth roared the plan. "Half the pack with us," cried. "We lead some metal teeth to the human den. The rest stay over the caves." The leader flew through a streak of enemy fire. Then he chose. "Half with Reth and the snow walker," he thundered. "Half with me. No hunter touches our home." Dragons split. Some wheeled back, forming a shield above the valley mouth. Turned with Reth and streamed after him toward the far glimmer of metal. On the carrier, power numbers climbed on Corrin's screen. "Lock the valley," he said. "When enough of them clear the walls, we cut that nest from the ice." Far below, Reth felt a strange prickling under his scales. The human pressed closer to his neck as the wind howled past. The real storm over the valley was still coming. and it would not be made of snow. Asterisk Reth flew hard, wings beating the thin cold air. The human lay low along his neck, fingers hooked. Around his scales, the hatchling between his shoulders pressed flat, eyes squeezed shut below. The white valley dropped away. Ahead the land rose once, then opened into a wide hollow of steel and light. The human outpost. From above it looked like a metal nest pressed into snow. Gray walls, tall antenna, landing pads, squat buildings joined by tunnels, heat and smoke. Curled up from vents, behind them, hunter craft followed like black wolves. Some chased the dragons, firing bright shots. Others slid wide to form a loose cage. Half the pack flew with Reth. The rest were only small shapes now, circling the caves. To guard the other hatchlings, we leave our young. Reth growled. We're trying to save them, the human shouted. If we break the hunters here, the valley lives. Wind tore their words, but Reth felt the fire behind them. As they neared the base, alarms woke. Sirens wailed. Searchlights stabbed the sky and froze on the incoming dragons. The human's old earpiece crackled to life. Multiple large, non-human contacts, a voice snapped. All batteries, prepare to fire. The human flinched. No, they breathed. Not them. They hit transmit. Stand down, they yelled. Do not fire on the dragons. This is Snowfield Witness 12. The dragons are not the enemy. Static. Then a shocked reply. You're supposed to be dead. Almost the human muttered. Long story, Admiral. Admiral Corrin's cold voice cut in. You will engage any hostile target that includes dragons. Ignore unauthorized orders. Reth snorted. Your Sky Chief does not like your tongue. He doesn't like the truth, the human said. Hold steady. Blow. Soldiers ran. Along the walls, some pointed at dragons, some at the hunter craft above them. Gun turrets hummed, unsure which way to turn. Give them proof, the human whispered. Make them see who shoots first. A hunter ship peeled away and dove not at dragons. But at the main antenna tower, blue bolts flashed the top of the tower. It vanished in white fire and falling metal. The earpiece filled with shouts. There. Hitting the base. That's not our pattern. We're under attack from above. The human hit transmit again. You see that? Those are hunter ships, not dragon fire. Your admiral brought them here. On the walls, some guns swung. Upward toward the hunter craft, others still tracked the dragons. Another hunter ship fired on a fuel stack, near a landing pad. The stack went up in a rolling blast. Shockwaves hit the walls. Humans hit the ground, covering their heads. Enough, Reth snarled. He folded his wings and dropped. Dragons followed, falling out of the sky like broken ice. Hunter craft tried to climb, but some were too slow. Reth slammed into the nearest ship. Claws punched into its hull. The human clung tight, the hatchling between his. Shoulders spat a thin line of white-blue fire into an open vent. Flame rushed inside. The ship shuddered, spun, and blew apart over the snow, all across the air. Dragons grabbed at wings and tails, tearing metal. Fire washed over engines and gun pods. Some ships went down on open ice. One smashed into the far wall and crumpled. On the ground, several base guns joined the fight against the hunter craft, shooting at their backs as they dived on dragons. Other crews still hesitated, afraid to hit friend and foe together. High above, the carrier watched. On its bridge, Corrin stared at his dimming screen. Hunter icons blinked out one by one. Dragons and ground guns are both engaging an officer. Said, we can't separate targets. Then treat them all as hostile, Corrin replied. Prepare Wydaria strike. The last three words bled into the human's ear. Their mouth went dry. A wide area strike would not care about dragons or walls. It would burn everything. They leaned close to Ref's neck. If he fires, everyone dies, they said. My people, your pack. All of us. Reth banked to dodge a streak of blue fire, then fixed his eyes on the dark shape above the clouds. Then we fly higher, he growled. We bite the hand that throws the storm. He angled his wings upward. The carrier waited in the bright, thin sky, and it had not fired yet, That was the only chance they had left. Asterisk Reth flew higher. The air grew thin and sharp. But he kept climbing. The human lay flat along his neck, hands locked around his scales. The small hatchling between his shoulders clung tight. Eyes squeezed shut. Below them, the sky over the outpost was chaos. Dragons and hunter craft twisted and dove. A fire streaked across the clouds. Explosions flashed orange and white over the snow. Above, the carrier swelled until its black belly filled the sky. A rows of gun ports and lights lined its underside. Jagged hunter emblem glowed like a scar. Reth's wings beat slow and heavy. Your sky chief hides in that shell, he growled. Tell me how to bite it. The humans squinted up. We can't break all of it, they shouted, but maybe we don't need to. Their finger tapped the side of their helmet. He's listening right now. He still thinks he owns this fight. Admiral Corrin's voice slid into their ear, calm and cold. You are disobeying direct orders, he said. Call off the dragons. Return to the valley. We'll handle the hunter. Units. You are the hunters, the human snapped. You sent those ships. You marked the valley with beacons. Those creatures are energy sources, Corrin replied. Strategic assets. We can't leave that kind of power sitting in a cave. They're families, the human said, teeth tight. Parents, children, people. They are not people, Corrin said. You are a soldier. You should know the difference between allies and fuel. Reth did not know every word, but he heard the hate. He wants our young, he rumbled. He will never stop. Then we stop him, the human said, but we don't do it in secret. How? Reth asked. By making him choose in front of everyone. The humans switched to a wide-open channel. All ships, open feed, they said. This is Snowfield Witness 12. I'm the one who sent the recordings of the Dragon Lab. Voices murmured faintly through the static. Different crews listening. The human lifted their head toward the huge shape above. Admiral Corrin, they called. I am riding one of the dragons you call an asset. I saw your orders. Your beacons. Your cages. Reth rumbled under them. Tell him he does not scare us, he said. You have a choice, the human said into the open channel. Stand down the carrier and call off the huntercraft. Or show your fleet who you really are by firing on your own ground teams and an innocent species at the same time. Static hissed. Somewhere below, a hunter. Ship blew apart in a ball of flame. Corrin's voice came back, colder. Duh. This is not a vote, he said. I have orders above your pay grade. We secure the dragons. If some die, more hatch. If some humans die, more will take their place. That is war. The human's stomach twisted. You'll kill a whole valley for power, they said. And your own soldiers with it. My duty is to our species, Corrin replied. Not to a scared unit that forgot which side it's on. Far below, the pack leaders circled with the dragons guarding the caves. He could not hear every word, but haze open, carried pieces of the human's voice and Corrin's replies. He heard kill a whole valley. He heard not people. He heard assets. That is enough, the leader said. I know this one's heart, near the outpost. Captain Hayes ducked behind a half-melted wall as shots sparked overhead. Corrin's words hissed in her ear. A soldier nearby stared at her. Ma'am, he'll drop a strike on us too. Hayes' hand shook on her rifle. Looks like he's decided everyone is expendable except himself, she said quietly. She switched to the same wide channel. Admiral, this is Hayes, she said. If you fire on this valley and this base, I transmit everything to every civilian relay in range. Your orders, your labs, your hunters, your name. You will be court-martialed, Corrin said, locked away, forgotten. Maybe she answered, but you won't be. The human's heart pounded. Doubt was running through the fleet. Like cracks through ice, they leaned close to Reth's ear. If he fires anyway, we hit his weapons as they charge, they said. Engines, gun bays, any glowing line, ground guns shoot too. If we break part of the strike, some of us live. Ask us to fly into the hottest fire, Reth growled. I'm asking you to protect your family, the human said softly. And mine, Reth snorted. You are very good at asking me to do stupid, brave things. Will you do it? The human asked. He banked closer to the carrier's underside. Huge panels and long glowing conduits loomed above like veins of light. Yes, he said, because you already did. On every ship, a sharp tone sounded. Strike command. Corrin's voice echoed over the open channel. All hunter units, prepare saturation fire on marked grid. Ground forces clear the area or be treated as hostile. This is your final warning. The human looked down. On the snow, tiny human figures ran for cover. Over the valley, dragons still circled the caves, shielding the young. For one breath, both sides looked small. Witness 12, Corrin said almost lazily. You have no side now. The human closed their eyes for half a heartbeat. Then they opened them and spoke so every ship could hear. You're wrong, they said. I chose my side the day I pulled a dragon hatchling out of the snow. My side is anyone who refuses to burn children for power. Reth roared, the sound rolling up the carrier's hull. All dragons. The human shouted into the wide channel. Aim for the glowing lines under the big ship. Ground guns. Hit whatever lights up when it charges. Make the whole fleet see what he's doing. The carrier's weapon bays began to open, bright light spilling from the seams. The sky was about to choose a side with them, or without them. Asterisk, the carrier's underside glowed, weapon bays opening like metal mouths. Thin lines of white light ran across its dark belly, growing brighter with every second. The air around it shimmered, full of coiled power. On Reth's back, the human felt the charge prickle against their skin. The hatchling between his shoulders pressed flat and whimpered. He throws his storm now, Reth growled. Then we hit the storm before it falls, the human said. They opened the wide-come channel. All dragons, all ground guns. They shouted, aim at the glowing lines under the big ship. Not the center hit the bright strips. Down on the valley floor, the pack leader heard the echo through Hayes's device. He lifted his head and saw the shining veins under the carrier. That is where we bite. He roared to the circling dragons. Over the caves, dragons snapped their wings and climbed. At the human outpost, gun crews swung turrets toward the carrier. For one breath, they hesitated, torn between the admiral's orders and the witness on the dragon's back. Then the first cannon fired. The beam of light speared upward and slammed into one glowing strip. The line flickered. Another turret fired. Then another. Soldiers shouted to each other, pointing. There, hit that? Anything that's lit? Undercraft dropped to block the shots. Some took the hits instead. Their hulls flashed and broke apart, spinning down trailing smoke. On the carrier's bridge, Admiral Corrin gripped his console. Red warnings spilled across every screen. They're striking the conduits, an officer cried. Hold the charge. Corrin snapped. We fire on my mark. Reth chose the brightest panel he could see and flew straight at it. Hold tight, he told the human. They pressed close to his neck. The hatchling dug its claws in and squeezed its eyes shut. Heat beat against them as they closed with the carrier. At the last moment, Reth twisted and slashed his claws across the bright surface. Dragonfire followed. White-blue flame roared from his throat into the crack. Metal warped and blackened. For a single heartbeat, nothing happened. Then the panel blew. Out, light and smoke burst from the wound. The carrier shuddered. Power that had been flowing in straight lines spilled sideways, hunting for new paths. Below, a ground battery struck another strip. A second dragon ripped through a third. One by one, the glowing veins along the carrier's belly flickered, cracked, or went dark. Inside the hull, the trapped charge no longer had clear roads. Energy snarled through broken channels, jumping where it should not go. Admiral, feedback is spiking, an officer shouted. If we fire now, it could jump into we hold, Corrin barked. We control this ship. We will fire, even if the sky burns with us. His voice ran out over the open channel. The human heard the fear under the anger. They spoke into the same line. Everyone listening, they said, you heard him. He's ready to burn a whole valley and his own crews just to save a dragon farm, are you? Static hissed. Somewhere below, someone whispered he'd hit. Us too, near the caves. The leader felt the air change. The great shape above them trembled. Light crawled over its hull in broken, crooked lines. All packed below the clouds, he roared. Wings over the young. Dragons folded and dropped, diving between the sky and the caves. Reth pulled away from the boiling glow, beating his wings. Hard. Too hot, he muttered. The storm bites itself now. The carrier finally lost control. The charge tore through its belly. Bright veins of energy ran wild, blowing open weapon bays one after another. The jagged hunter emblem split as a crack raced straight across it. For one white instant, the sky turned to fire. Then the carrier came apart. It did not fall whole. Segments ripped free and spun away, trailing smoke. Engines tore loose. Broken hull plates tumbled down far from the valley. Shockwaves rolled across the air and slapped at wings and walls. Reth flared his wings at the last moment. The blast hammered his back, but he held. Ow! The human's vision went gray, then slowly cleared. The hatchling clung to him, shaking but alive. When the air stilled, nothing remained of the carrier but drifting haze and a slow rain of dark. Metal silence followed. Wind moved across the snow again. The outpost still stood, scorched but whole. Dragons circled low over the valley. No cave had fallen in. On the ground, Hayes pushed herself up from behind a shattered wall. "We're still here," she breathed. Reth landed beside the human. They slid down from his neck on unsteady legs. The hatchling dropped into their arms and buried its snout in their chest. The pack leader settled with a heavy thud in front of them. His wings drooped. His eyes burned bright. "You stood between our young and your sky chief," he said. Your voice cut his chain. The human let out a tired laugh. "A lot of ships chose," they said. "Not just me." "Someone had to speak first," Reth answered. Hayes walked over, helmet in one hand, soot on her armor. She looked at dragons, at the human, then up at the empty space where the carrier had been. "Command will argue about this for years," she said. "Some will want revenge, some will want peace. But nobody can call this a clean mission now. The truth is out." The leader turned toward the caves. Hatchling stepped into the light, sniffing the calm air. "Then we make our own law," he said, voice rolling through the stone. "Here, under this sky," he raised his head. "Hear me, pack. 2 fires saved us today, dragon fire and human courage. From this day, our young will hear both stories, and will forget that a 2-leg chose to fall before a hatchling." Dragons answered with low roars that rolled around the valley like distant thunder. Reth snorted. "Your kind uses too many words," he told Hayes, "but I like the ones that say no cages." Few dragons gave rough, tired laughs. The human looked at scorched snow, cracked walls, living caves, and small bodies pressing close to their legs. Everything still hurt, but the fear that had lived in their chests since the blizzard finally loosened. They knelt in the snow. The hatchling climbed to their shoulder and rested its head against their cheek. "Is this your sky?" Its bright eyes seemed to ask. The human wrapped an arm around it and looked up at the open blue above, dragons and humans standing on the same ground. "Ours," they whispered, "if we're brave enough to keep it." Above them, the last sparks faded. 1 sky, 2 fires, and 1 future they would have to guard together.